I'd like to welcome everyone to this information session. My name is Sarah Witmer, and I'm the Community Impact Lead here at Kitchener-Waterloo Community Foundation, also referred to as KWCF. I'm very excited to talk to you about a new fund that has been launched to support the sustainability and recovery initiatives of organizations serving the arts community in Waterloo Region. The COVID-19 Arts Stabilization and Recovery Fund is a one-time initiative for us, but before I get into talking about it, I would like to take some time to do a territorial acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe and Neutral people. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today, their achievements, and their contributions to our community. We offer this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples of Canada. Before I get into the agenda, I just wanted to share with you why KWCF has set up this fund. We know there have been increased costs and or revenue loss due to the pandemic for most arts organizations across Waterloo Region. The necessary social distancing measures to reduce the impact of COVID-19 dealt a solid blow to the arts organizations and collectives, particularly those whose revenue is generated through ticketed events. The COVID-19 Arts Sustainability and Recovery Fund has been established as a one-time initiative that will provide funding to small and medium-sized arts organizations and collectives located in Waterloo Region. This funding reinforces KWCF's approach to encouraging self-led activities. So as such, a volunteer committee has been formed comprised of people from the arts community across Waterloo Region in partnership with KWCF. This committee has developed the granting guidelines, the application, and will be reviewing the recommending the funding allocations. We felt it was very important for us for this fund to be arts community led and have been actively listening to and acting on their suggestions throughout this entire process of getting ready for this fund. Okay, so I'm going to go to the agenda now. Oh, this happens every time. There we go. Okay, so what we'll be discussing today are what the grants are for, how much you can apply for, what organizations are eligible, fiscal sponsorship, funding examples, application questions, the timelines, and we have lots of time for questions. So if you have any questions, please pop them into the chat or into the Q&A portion, and we will address all the questions later on. I have my colleague Lynn Short on this webinar as well, and if there's something I'm missing or something else that needs to be added, she will be happy to jump onto some of those question and answers and be able to provide some more guidance if I'm missing something. We like to be a team here. Okay, what are the grants for? So the grants are for to support arts organizations or collectives in Waterloo Region as they recover and or implement sustainability practices as a result of COVID-19. It is important that we have established that because we know that COVID-19 has impacted the arts community significantly, and we want to be able to help you recover and have sustainability practices for your organization. Also, it is for general expenses and or continued programming expenses to help sustainability and or recover from the impacts of COVID-19. So it is not new programming, but to help adjust based on the programming you already have provided and make any adjustments so that you can still continue to provide that. Some examples for this could be implementing online tools to help deliver programs. If you need to purchase extra supplies so that each person participating can have their own tools that are sent to their homes. So if they are in a music program and normally they've shared musical instruments or something like that, but they need to now do them at home and you need to provide a kit of some sort, the purchase of those materials can be applied for. If you need to build infrastructure for children or youth so they can safely participate in the program as it is being delivered, as it has been delivered in the past, that is appropriate. general expenses for the organization to sustain itself through this time of revenue loss. How much can you apply for? So there is approximately $225,000 available in this funding available. Grants can be up to $20,000. Now, just because it's up to $20,000, it doesn't mean you should just shoot for the moon and go for $20,000. Please apply for what you need. If you need $5,000, please apply for $5,000. If you need $20,000, please apply for $20,000. It's important that the committee sees that you're applying for the need versus versus the want. And you should know that there is a chance, because the funding is limited and we anticipate a greater need than what is available, we will be looking into funding the minimum needed in order to move forward with this grant. What organizations are eligible? So your organization or collective is located in Waterloo Region with the 3 cities or the 4 townships. And it started in January 2019 or earlier. This funding is not for new organizations, but for the sustainability and the recovery of ones who have served the community for a while now. So the committee decided they wanted to make sure that you have already been established since January 2019. The size of your organization is a small or medium-sized arts registered charitable organization or qualified donee under CRA guidelines. It's a small or medium-sized arts collective who have a fiscal sponsor, and a collective is defined as a group of local people that have come together in a structured way for an artistic purpose, just so you know. The total revenue, annual revenue of your organization's financial year that concluded in 2019 did not exceed $500,000. The committee felt that this was important in order to be able to serve the small and medium-sized organizations, and felt that the $500,000 was the appropriate amount to have as a marker. Your registered charitable organization or qualified donee as defined by CRA guidelines. And so just so you know, KWCF can only fund to a qualified donee under CRA guidelines. So if you are a registered charity or a qualified donee, that is fine. Otherwise, you will require a fiscal sponsor, and we'll get more into that in the next slide. I also have a link that I'll provide to you in the discussion as to that will bring you to CRA Canada Revenue Agency's website, and you'll be able to look more into that. We also have a whole page on our website about fiscal sponsorship in case you need to know more information on that. Again, if you have questions about that specifically, you can ask them at the end of this, this discussion, or you can call me and I'd be happy to walk through that with you. So what is a fiscal sponsor? So fiscal sponsorship is basically when a registered charity or qualified donee applies with the registered not-for-profit or collective together, and they receive the funding from us and provide it to you. They are the intermediary between us and the collective or registered not-for-profit. So they will work with you to ensure that what you are applying for is appropriate, is followed out. And Lynn, I think you want to say something?
Rick just commented that he's not seeing any of the slides other than the welcome slide. Is that common to the rest of the group, that you're not seeing through the slides? Okay. So Rick, if you're having an issue, just shoot a note and we'll try to support you. Sorry to interrupt, Sarah. I wanted to make sure you guys saw.
No problem. Is everyone else able to see the slides?
That's what they're saying, yes.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for letting me know, Lynn. And Rick will, this will be recorded, like I said at the beginning. So if you would like to see the slides later, you can see them again. And we can talk about that afterwards if you want, okay? Going back to fiscal sponsorship. So if you are a registered not-for-profit or a collective, you will be required to get a registered charity or qualified donee under CRA guidelines to support you with your application. There are questions within the application that will be addressing that, and we also have information on our website. I have walked through this process with many people, and so I'm more than happy to get on a phone call with you and talk to you about this. One thing we cannot do is recommend who you should go to, because that would be kind of an inappropriate part on our end as a funder. However, we would be happy to suggest the types of organizations you may want to reach out with. And one thing I would say in a phone call, I would say to you, reach out to someone who you already have a relationship with and that aligns well with the work that you are doing. So that's something that the CRA would like to see in a fiscal sponsorship. I'm going to move on now. And I'm sure there's some questions about that, and we'll address those at the end, just so you know, okay? Funding examples. So I'm just going to read through this list. There are appropriate funding examples would be people costs, materials, supplies, equipment purchase, rental, lease, maintenance, administrative costs, technology costs, printing and communication, including marketing, community outreach and engagement, adapting current programming, research pertaining to organization, collective sustainability and recovery. And that was important for the committee because they recognize that you may need funding to help you figure out how you're going to move forward, and that some of this funding will be able to help you in that way. So if you need to do any research in order to be able to sustain your organization or collective, that would be also appropriate. Again, I've already talked about some of these examples, but things that are also eligible are adapting your already programs to an online environment, building infrastructure for children and youth to be able to participate safely, and I just said any research required in order to be able to implement sustainability practices within your organization. If you have any questions about things that you would like to apply for and you're not sure, please give me a call or send me an email, and I'd be happy to discuss that with you. We understand that every organization and collective has their own specific needs. There are some commonalities across the region, but then there are individual needs for the organizations that we're trying to support. So please talk to me and I'd be happy to have this conversation with you. Application questions. So we thought it was important that we show you some of the questions that are on the application so that you can see some of the things that the committee is really interested in learning about. So what will happen to your organization if this proposal does not receive funding? That is an important question that the committee really wants to know the answer to. Would your services not be able to continue? Would you, if you don't receive this funding, would this be the thing that helps bridge you moving forward? The committee is concerned about the sustainability of the arts community, and they would like to know specifically what will be happening to your organization if you didn't receive this funding. And will this be a lifeline you need to implement a new program with COVID measures that will help you generate revenue and sustainability? Another question, how will our community benefit from this project initiative, including how many people will it support? That's kind of self-explanatory, but something that the committee is really keen to understand. How does this address a need caused by COVID-19? This is really important because this funding is a reaction to COVID-19 and the ramifications on your organization. So we want to know what you're doing in light of COVID-19 to help you mitigate these difficult times. If your organizational structure is a collective, you will receive this question. Please describe how your organization operates on a regular basis, how many people are involved, and how you make decisions. They just want to know the format in which your collective operates. So just be prepared for that kind of question and know how to answer it. So they just have an understanding of your purpose of what you do and how you move about that. Timelines. So this has been a very quick process, and we know that you've probably just heard about this maybe even within the last day, and you've so graciously joined us today. We also recognize that this just launched last week, and it has been a quick process for us as well. So we are trying our best to be able to support the community, and that's why this has been a very fast timeline. So applications opened last week on Wednesday on October 28th. They will close on November 18th at 5 p.m. Funding will be distributed in December. The committee will come together and make their decisions, and we will already get that funding out in December before the holidays start. And funding must be used by December 31st. So we are 2021. It is important that we wanted to give you a year to be able to play out the funding that you are receiving. And once that time is up, we will give a month to do an evaluation. So the evaluation is due January 31st, 2022. Seems a long way away, but it will come up pretty quickly. With respect to the evaluation, we want to know how this funding helped our community. If you get a grant, we will need to complete a short grant evaluation that tells us how you use the funds and the impact it had. We will provide a template and assistance if you have any questions regarding the evaluation. And we're not trying to make it difficult for you to fill it out. But we just need to know, what did you do and what was the impact? And so that we can report back to the community on the good things that have happened due to this funding. So just so you know, we've had some terrific support from our fund holders. When COVID started in our community and it hit our community and it devastated a lot of the arts organizations, we asked our fund holders if they would like to help support KWCF in the recovery efforts to the local organizations before we even had a plan of what this even looked like. Without even knowing what it looked like, many of our fund holders said, yes, we would love to support this. So much of the funding that we have provided for you for this grant stream has been provided by our fund holders in their annual disbursements for the year. So we just want to thank them for their contributions and are so thankful for their support and trust in this process. Question and answers. So let's get, I'm sure there's been a lot so far. I can see quite a large chat. And I'm going to start.
Sarah, all of the questions so far have been covered.
Oh, okay, great. I'll start towards the end then. Oh, the link to CRA is right here. Oh, I think I did that to Lynn, sorry. I'm gonna do that one more time, apologize. There we go. And the recording for this this webinar will be on our website probably later this week or early next week. So if you need to refer back to it, you're more than welcome to, and we will have that available for you. Can you give us a sense of who is on the committee, for example, from which demographics, disciplines, types of organizations represented, if any? Yeah, I won't give names, but we made sure that they are representative across reference of all the different disciplines. Their music and visual arts and performance arts, and people who have been involved in the arts community for a significant amount of time. We wanted to have different representation of people, so we included that as well. So we do feel like we have a great team surrounding us who are giving us excellent advice on how we are to proceed with this. We anticipate needing to rebuild our website to enable live streaming, ticket purchases, etc. Would this fall under technology costs? Thank you. Yes, it would. So if you need to rebuild your website in order to mitigate the impact of COVID-19, that would be completely appropriate. Thank you, Brenda, for asking that. Pam's asked, will there be a priority to support BIPOC-led arts organizations through this funding? There is definitely a priority for us at KWCF. We also have just launched a BIPOC, a COVID-19 BIPOC Sustainability and Recovery Fund. So we do value and recognize the importance of supporting this community. So BIPOC organizations can apply to either of these applications. So yes, thank you for asking that, Pam. Just wait to see if there's any more questions. Oh, what does BIPOC mean? Thank you for asking. It means Black, Indigenous, People of Color. So they are often communities who have been disproportionately affected by the effects of COVID-19. And so we have wanted to support those communities as best we can.
Sarah, if I can just add to that point, the BIPOC Sustainability and Recovery Fund, which is a separate pool of funding, is specifically focused on addressing that disproportionality. For this fund, it is a lens that is being looked through, but it's not a priority above everything else. It's an additional component of the way that this is being reviewed by the review committee. Just thought that'd be helpful.
Absolutely, thank you, Lynn. Can you explain a bit more about fiscal sponsor if you are a nonprofit organization? So if you are a nonprofit organization, in order to receive a grant from KWCF, you need to have a partnership with a qualified donee under CRA guidelines. So that could be a registered charity or another entity. What that means is when we send out the funding, if you are approved for a grant, the money goes to the fiscal sponsor, and they are the ones who provide the funding to you. That is the way that we can mitigate the guidelines that we are under from Canada Revenue Agency, because we can't grant to a non-qualified donee. We are looking for a natural partnership between you and the fiscal sponsor that you have secured partnership with. So for instance, it wouldn't make sense if you are a theater group and you are getting fiscal sponsorship from a social service agency locally. There's just really it just doesn't seem to be any alignment unless you've already been doing a lot of work with that group. You've already been supporting that community, then it may make sense. But if there isn't really any alignment and there's been no prior relationship, it wouldn't really be something that would make sense. So we're looking for that that natural alignment. Sam is curious. Oh, go ahead, Lynn.
I was just thinking while you were, because there are a bunch of questions that I know you needed to answer. I saw Sam's question in both spots. The issue about the HVAC system, Sam, is help us understand how this is linked specifically to COVID. So in your application, they're looking at the sustainability and recovery of organizations, needs resulting from COVID-19. If you can explain how A is linked to B, that will help the committee understand. So it's an eligible expense, but it needs to be linked to sustainability and recovery due to COVID. I thought by me hopping on that one, it would allow you to do some of the other fiscal sponsor ones, Sarah.
Yeah, and also read through the next couple questions that were coming in. Thanks, Lynn. Pam has asked, how many organizations, collectives can a fiscal sponsor support? Great question. So if you are a fiscal sponsor or a registered charity qualified donee, you may apply and sponsor one other application. If you are not applying yourself, then you may support a few. We're not saying like many, but it'd be something that we'd be willing to entertain, to have a few that you could support. We understand that you may have great relationships with a few organizations that are local who would be coming to you for that. Can an individual be a qualified donee? No, but thank you for asking that. So an individual person it has to be a group or collective of people coming together for an artistic purpose, and or a not-for-profit. So individual people cannot receive a grant or find a fiscal sponsor to be able to support them.
I answered the question about the presentation being sent, Sarah.
Thanks, Lynn. Oh, can an individual person be a fiscal sponsor? No. An individual person is not a registered charity or a qualified donee under CRA guidelines. So unfortunately, they too cannot receive a grant from KWCF or any funding entity within Canada. So it has to be a registered charity or another type of qualified donee. Like a city is a qualified donee, sports associations, there's a list of like 6 different ones, but typically what we would see are registered charities, which is usually why we usually use that term.
Amit, there was a list earlier in the chat. Sarah, maybe pull it down to the bottom again of what CRA recognizes as a qualified donee, and that's the guideline that we need to operate under. So it includes all the breakdowns. So it'll give you a bit more information as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just quickly checking. Looks like we may have covered off all the questions, Sarah, unless we missed something.
So we'll end now, but I just want to thank you for your time for coming today and listening to this. I'm sure there'll be other questions that will percolate in your mind as you continue moving on with this and think about applying. I'm available for a phone call or for an email. I love helping people as they are applying for applications and for grants. So if you call call our organization and call the number that is listed, it will, because we're not in the office, it will go to my voicemail and I will access that and be able to call you back, just so you know. But happy to help in any way I can. And we are just so thankful that we can be able to partner with you during these times. So thanks so much everybody for coming, and have a lovely day.